Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Lee. In today's video, I would like to walk you through how I use Kind to create a local Kubernetes cluster and I use MetalLB for provisioning external IP for the load balancer services. Let's get started. First of all, let me open my terminal. And then I'm going to create a Kind cluster. Let's call this cluster Demo. There are many tools available on the market for creating local clusters. I choose Kind because I can create multi-node cluster or even multiple clusters on local. I can also choose the version of the Kubernetes that I want to test my applications on. Okay, so now we have the cluster created. We can see the Kubernetes context has been switched to Kind demo automatically. Let's have a look about our node. Get node. So we can see we've got one node. And if we get ports from all namespace, we can see everything is set up. Before I start talking about MetalLB, I would like to spend a little bit time talking about different Kubernetes services, so you have a better understanding on why we need to use MetalLB. So to demonstrate, I need to create a deployment first. I'm going to deploy an Nginx. Then I need to expose this Nginx service. So let's call this service name as Nginx SVC, and let's just leave it as default first. So we need to have a port 80 is fine. So now we have got this service created. So let's get SVC, and we can see that the Nginx service is created and it has a cluster IP. Cluster IP is the default service type when you use kubectl to expose a deployment on your cluster. You can only access cluster IP services within the cluster. So let's just create a simple container. Debug. So I need to get the port name first. kubectl gets ports. So we can do kubectl debug, and then we got the port name. We do -it -image equal to Nicola ka/net shoot. Okay, so we can access this cluster IP 10.96.231.7. and the port is 80. So we can see here, because this port is on this cluster, I can access this cluster IP services with the IP address and the port. Okay. So next I'm going to delete this service and then create a new one. I want to choose the service type as NodePort. kubectl expose and deployment Nginx with a port. And we need to have a type as well. So port 80. Let's double check our service. kubectl get SVC. As we can see, the service type is now NodePort with a height number ports. So this is the port that you can use to access the service via your node IP. Let's get our node IP first. So kubectl get node -o wide. We can see the node IP is 172.168.1.8.2, right? So we can do curl, and then the port number is 32475. Yes, you can see we now have our NodePort. So if you don't have a load balancer, you can use the NodePort to access the service as well. So let's just delete this service again. And the last type I want to show you is the load balancer type. So it's kubectl expose. But this time I want to change the type to load balancer. Okay, and then we can do get service again. So we can see that the service type is load balancer, and it's got a cluster IP, but the external IP is pending. If your Kubernetes cluster is running on a cloud provider like AWS, Azure, or GCP, these platforms is responsible for providing an external IP address, which is bound to their load balancer to this cluster. So you can see an external IP here straight away. With a local cluster, because it doesn't have this feature, we will use MetalLB to give us a external IP. So this is where the MetalLB comes in handy. So let's just delete this service first. Service, Nginx, SVC. Next, I'm going to install MetalLB on our cluster via Helm. So let me open my browser first. And then I can search for MetalLB Helm, the first link. And we can go down to this page. So here it is. So let's just copy. Right, so let's just do kubectl get ports, and then 8. So we can see that the ports are created. Let's just watch. Now that we have all the ports running, we can start using MetalLB for provisioning an external IP for our load balancer services. The first step we need to do is to figure out an IP address pool that we want MetalLB to assign the external IP addresses to. As I mentioned before, Kind is running in Docker. That means we need to define this IP address pool within the Kind Docker network. Let me show you what I mean. So when the first time you start Kind, Docker will create a network. So let's see, Docker network ls. So we can see there is a bridge network called Kind. So this is the network Kind got deployed on, and we need to make sure the IP address pool is within that CIDR block. So let's have a look. Is Docker inspect network Kind. As we can see here, the subnet for this Kind network is 172.18.18.0/24. That means there are approximately 254 IP addresses that we can use potentially for our load balancer services. We need to make sure the IP address pool is within this range. So let's go back to the browser, and we need to find the IP addresses pool, CRD. Okay, so let's just tap address, IP address. So, okay, so we can see we need the IP address pool here. So let's go here, configurations. Right. So for the IP address pool, we need to define our CRD as this, but for the range, we need to use something like this. So let's just copy this thing. And we can do kubectl apply -f eof. Okay, so this line is gone, this line is gone, and we need to make sure it's within the range. So it will be 1818. Let's use 100. Also 1818. Maybe I just give 10 address for this pool. And I will call it demo pool, and this is in the default namespace. So EOF, done. So once the IP address pool is assigned or created, we need to also have a L2 advertisement CRD created to actually advertise all these IP addresses to be used. So let's go back to the official documentation again. So we can go to L2 configuration, and we can just copy one of these. It doesn't matter. So kubectl apply -f, and then EOF. So we will change the name. Example is fine. Namespace to be default. We can delete this, and this to be demo pool, right? And then we can EOF. Right, so now we have IP address pool decided, and we have advertised this address pool. Let's just expose our service again. CDL expose, and make sure it's load balancer. Okay, port 80. Okay, so if we do get SVC again, so we can see that we've got an external IP, and this is the first IP addresses in our pool. Okay, so we can do curl 192.168.100 and port 80. Sorry. So you can see this is the problem, right? So the pool is supposed to be 172, not 192, right? So I made a mistake there. So let's just fix that. Let's just delete that service first. kubectl. We need to edit or maybe we can just add it straight away from here. So it's 192 to 172. Okay. All right, so once it's modified, let's try to create a service again. kubectl get svc. So we can see the IP address starting with 172.168.100 now. Okay, so let's just do a curl again, port 80. So now we are working. Okay, so you can see how easy it is that you can use MetalLB for provisioning an external IP for your Kubernetes load balancer service on your local cluster, right? This is on Linux, so it's a bit easier because you've got a Docker 0 network interface. On macOS, things are a little bit different. Let me just switch to the macOS and show you how to do it on there. Hi, now that we have switched to macOS, let me show you how to do the same to run the Kind cluster and MetalLB for load balancer. The trick here is to use a new tool called OrbStack. I've been using this tool for the past few months, and it's just so good that I have to recommend it to you, especially compared to Docker Desktop. It uses less resource, runs faster, and most importantly, it can give you some real IP addresses for your container that you can send your request to. So let me open my browser. And then we can search for OrbStack. This is the one. Yep, please have a try, and I guarantee this is much better than Docker Desktop, at least from the personal use. Okay, let me just show you how it works. So let me open my terminal. Increase the font size, and then we can create our Kind cluster. Kind create cluster and call demo. Next, I'm going to open my browser, go to MetalLB Helm, come here, and then we can copy the command, install kubectl get ports. Just watch this port being deployed. Okay, so far so good. Let's next to inspect the Docker network. So Docker network, inspect Kind. Let's scroll up a little bit. As we can see here, the subnet is 192.168.228 and 0/24. So we need to make sure our IP address pool is within this range. Okay, so let's go back to my browser and search for IP address pool. It's here, so let's just copy this one. kubectl apply -f eof paste in, delete, and I am also going to call it demo. Of course, it's 192.168.288. Okay, 192.168.288. All right, so it's 288, and then it shouldn't be 288, 228. Yep, 228, and then we just do 100 again. 228 and 110. So the namespace will be default again, and we can do eof. Okay, so next we are going to create the L2 advertisement. which is this one. So let's just copy kubectl, apply. Right, so let me just delete, and demo. Example is fine. Demo, sorry, default. No problem. So now we can deploy our Nginx kubectl, create, deployment, name Nginx, image Nginx. So it shouldn't be a name, just call Nginx then, I guess. Right, so now we can do kubectl expose, deployment, Nginx, and what's the type of that? Its type is, sorry, it should have a name. So it's name Nginx svc, type equal to load balancer, port 80, and then we can do kubectl as get svc. So we can see we've got external IP here. All right, let's just curl. Okay, so you can see that we've got a real external IP addresses assigned from MetalLB that is working for the Kubernetes load balancer type on macOS. The only restriction I would say is on Docker, on Linux, you can actually create the kind network to whatever range that you like 172, you can do that. But on macOS, you have to define your kind network within the IP addresses from the obstat IP range. So I think by default, it's 192.168/16, I think. So you need to define your kind Docker network within that range to be able to get it to work. That's all I want to show you today. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave your comments down below. I will try my best to get back to you. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Goodbye.